Hi there, everyone. Just going to give everyone a few moments to filter on in here. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Give everyone a few more minutes. I have to apologize off top if you hear any background noise. I do have a neighbor and they're playing music, unfortunately, but my noise suppression is turned all the way up, so hopefully you won't hear them too much. All right. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Technology Tuesdays, all about what to read next. I'll let everyone know that you are muted and have your cameras turned off by default, but if you have questions, feel free to put those in the questions box and feel free to engage in the chat, of course. My name's Lydia Nimke, and I'm excited to bring you today's presentation. I'll also be sending out a follow-up email on Thursday that includes a recording of this presentation, as well as a handout with links and basic instructions, so there's no need to take any extensive notes on anything today. With us in the background today, we also have Brittany Lee, who will be monitoring the chat and reading your questions aloud. All right, go on ahead. So a lot of the presentation today is actually going to be demonstration. So we'll jump in with the concepts we'll be covering for today. So first off, we're going to talk about what do you enjoy reading, of course. And then we'll do demonstrations in Novelist, Goodreads, the library catalog, and then we'll just briefly touch on how we can browse and find out what to read next on some of the ebook and other electronic resources the library offers. We'll be covering each of these topics just briefly because if we got into all of the features and awesome ways to use them, we could definitely have a separate Tech Tuesdays on each of them. So if you see an interface you like or a feature you think you'd find useful, I really implore you to check out that website and explore it a little bit more. And remember, me personally, I'm always here to answer your questions, and most of the librarians, if not all of them at MPL, are more than willing to help you when it comes to finding books using Novelist and Goodreads and things like that. So reach out to us. That's what we're here for. All right. So first things first, what do you like to read? So in finding out what to read next, it's really important to start thinking about what you like to read, what sort of genres, character archetypes, and writing styles appeal to you. So I actually have a short little poll that I'm going to launch to kind of figure out who we have in our audience today. So if you wouldn't mind uh, letting me know what your favorite genres are to read. So while you're filling that out, at the library, a big part of my and many other public librarians' jobs is to do something called reader's advisory, meaning that we suggest something we think a reader will like based on some information they've given us. Today, I'll hopefully be giving you an overview of how you can do reader's advisory for yourself and for others. If you aren't quite sure about genres, don't worry. At least think about the last book you read and really liked and wish maybe the series had continued or you want to read more books like it. That's a great starting point. And from there, the sky's the limit. We can really snowball that into like a huge list of books you might like to read. If you have any books that you describe like that, maybe feel free to put those in the chat and I can use them in some of my search examples. So let's take a look at our poll so far. All right, we've got a lot of mystery fans. Awesome. I will use that in my genre browsing examples. Literary fiction, romance. Cool, cool. Something else? Awesome as well. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into our demonstration. And we'll be starting off with Novelist. So Novelist is one of MPL's subscription databases that provides users with information on books, authors, and genres. It's a great resource to use to find books for yourself and for others. Outside of the library, users have to enter their library card number for access, just like other MPL databases, or you can navigate in through the homepage. Instructions for how to access Novelist are definitely listed in that handout, so don't worry if you miss a step. You can start off at the MPL homepage at mpl.org, and then we'll go to the Research tab. You're going to go under the Databases heading and go to All Library Databases. And then we'll go to N for Novelist, scroll down a bit. There it is. And then we'll click Access this database. So from here, we're in the Novelist database, which is from EBSCOhost. So it's going to feel familiar if you're used to searching through, EBSCOhost databases. And you'll notice a couple of different features on this main page here that you'll be taken into. You can browse by genre, appeal, themes, and award winners. You can do basic searches by keyword, title, author, and series. And then a great function that I like is this recommended reads list over here. Just it'll start with a broader genre. And then once you click on it, it'll get more narrow into those subgenres. A lot of people, may not realize that there's a lot of different kinds of horror fiction, say. There's a lot of different kinds of fantasy fiction. The, blood drenched horror is going to be a super different feel and different vibe than your classic chills or your, um, humorous horror, of course. So we're going to go ahead and browse by genre for adults. And again, we have some overarching genres here. A lot of you like mysteries, so we're going to go look for mysteries. And you see we have some subgenres and some more of those recommended reading lists over here. So let's find a book that looks interesting, An Artful Corpse. If you hover over it, you're going to see a short description. Once you click on the item, you're going to be taken into that item page. And what you're going to see is some basic bibliographic information, the title, when it was published, author, general genre, things like that, and a description. And then you're going to see some appeal terms. So, what makes novelists so powerful and so useful for Reader's Advisory and finding out what to read next is these appeal terms, where novelist takes all this data it has about the book and synthesizes it into, terms that cover the types of characters in a story, the pace, the writing style, um, more genre subgenres that you might be interested in. So this is how you can kind of browse through novelists and see what you like. On each of these websites we go to today, I'm going to do a search for the same item so we can kind of compare and contrast as we go along. So I'm going to do a search for Kindred, classic sci-fi novel by Octavia Butler. There's the item record there. I'm going to click on that. So again, basic bibliographic information, a short description, and there are those appeal terms. One of the easiest ways to find appeal terms and use them in your searches is to find an item you like I liked this book, Kindred, then scroll down the page. You can actually select what you liked about that book. So if you liked the bleak tone and the own voices storyline, you can select those and conduct a search for books that fit into those appeal terms, which is really cool. It's a different way to search that you can't just normally do on Google necessarily. So that's very nice. Also, on an items page, you're going to find this section over on the right here called read alikes. Read alikes have similar appeal terms to a given book, similar plot, feel, or writing style, and are going to be, it's thought that they'll be similarly enjoyed. If you hover over the item, it'll give you a reason why it's considered a read alike for the item you're looking at. So I don't know if everyone's read Kindred or knows about it, but the reason this Hazards of Time Travel is considered a read alike is because women time travel to an oppressive 1950s Wisconsin and an 1819 Maryland, and by necessity must exhibit behaviors compliant with the times. So that seems pretty similar. This reason actually also gives us some differences as well. So, bleak science fiction classic Kindred is more culturally diverse than creepy and dystopian hazards. So, if I was a person who especially loved the diversity that's present in Kindred and I was looking for something to mirror that, maybe Hazards of Time Travel isn't the right read alike for me. Maybe if I was just into the time travel aspect of it or the female main character aspect of it, maybe that would be for me. So you kind of read through the read alikes, the reasons why they're considered read alikes, and find your new favorite book from there, hopefully. So let's see. So that is generally novelist. If you all have any favorite books you'd like me to look up, I can definitely do that for you. If you put them in the chat, I'm more than willing to look them up. So, now, although Novelist is one of the most powerful tools for finding out what to read next, it is definitely at its core, sorry, wrong page. It's definitely at its core a database. And it's structured like a lot of other EBSCO databases. The website, you might find it a little old fashioned. It might take some getting used to learning how to navigate if you're not, used to searching through databases all the time. If you're looking for something a bit more contemporary, look no further than Goodreads. So, Goodreads is a free app and website that users create a personal account on to keep track of what they have read, rate what they've read, and write reviews on books, and find new things to read, of course. You can even connect Goodreads to your Facebook account or Google account and share what you're reading with your friends and see what they're reading as well. So with Goodreads, it's pretty simple. You'll just go to goodreads.com, and if you haven't already, create an account. And it's going to ask you some information about your favorite genres to read. After creating an account, you'll be on a home page that looks something like this. It might look a little different because, you might read different books than I do. And there are a couple of points of interaction I do want to point out to you. So on the homepage, you'll see your friends' updates. So this is what they've said they want to read, what they're currently reading. I can keep kind of track of what all my good buds are reading. And this is with the purpose of, if they're your friends, chances are they're reading books similar to what you'd be interested in. You're also going to see up in the top a toolbar, and that's your general navigation through Goodreads. You have the My Books button that'll take you to your bookshelves, which we'll talk more about in just a second. The Browse, which takes you to recommendations, lists, And it also is a place where you can browse through genres. These are my favorite genres, so you might see different genres besides the ones listed here. And you can also always browse by all genres. And they also have a strong community tab. Goodreads has forums, groups, discussions, quizzes, trivia, ask the author events. Some authors are very active on Goodreads and they'll, host giveaways of their newest book and answer questions about characters and stuff like that. So it is a really fun place to be if you're interested in that sort of engagement and community. Near each book that you find, you'll see this green want to read button with a down arrow next to it. So you can quickly add a book you're interested in to your want to read shelf for later. You can go down your list and find something new to read or um, make sure to check it out from the library the next time you're there. So I can add this book to my want to read shelf and it shows up as a thing I want to read. I can also go to the down arrow and add it to a specific shelf that I created for a specific like categorization. So let's go to my books so we can take a look at my bookshelves. So you can create your own bookshelves. You can create as many as you want, but by default, you have a read bookshelf, so books you've already read, a currently reading bookshelf, and a want to read. And you can just stick with the stock ones if you don't want to go around making new shelves as well. So on want to read, I just added new book and it's going to be all the way at the end. I have 149 items on here. So that's a great way to kind of categorize your books. A lot of users use this ability to divide their books into genres of their own. So if you're in the mood for a procedural mystery, you can go to your procedural mystery shelf and find books like that. If you're in the mood for a high fantasy, you can go find the high fantasy books you've already determined you want to read. So just like before, we're going to do a search for Kindred, right at that search bar, at the toolbar there. There's our item. So I've already read Kindred, so it's on my red shelf. If I hadn't, it would be green and I could press want to read there. Of course, we have our description and our basic bibliographic information. And we have our readers also enjoyed section. So this is a little bit different than the read alike section in that readers who rated this book, Kindred, highly on Goodreads also rated these books highly on Goodreads. So it's kind of different way to go about finding books that you might enjoy, but it goes to a similar effect. A lot of these books are about time and have some sort of mystical element to them. Scrolling a little bit further down the page, we can see what genres users associated this book with, and we can browse through those genres. There are author pages on Goodreads, so you could always follow the author and look for more books by her. And then, of course, there are a ton of community reviews. This book is very popular and quite old. It's a classic, so it's got over 100,000 reviews, ratings, and over 10,000 reviews. So that's kind of what an item record looks like. And why don't we take a look at the list with this book? So lists are another thing that users can create on Goodreads to kind of categorize the things by some sort of commonality. So this list is non-Caucasian protagonists in science fiction, fantasy, horror, and paranormal romance. It's also on a list called Best Science Fiction and Fantasy Books. So there's different things in common between these different lists because they're all user created. So if we click on Best Science Fiction and Fantasy, what we're going to see is just probably a bunch of sci-fi classics, which makes total sense for the title of the list. So if we click on another book, same situation. Now I haven't read this book, so what I could do if I want to remember it for some point in the future is just click want to read. So that's pretty much Goodreads in a nutshell. There's a lot more, obviously, to Novelist and Goodreads. This is just a general overview of if you wanted to get started using them. But are there any questions so far about Novelist or Goodreads? All right. You all can definitely let me know if you want me to do a search for any specific items to kind of see how you can snowball that one item that might be your favorite into a bigger list of books that you might want to check out from the library. Now, moving on to our next source of finding out what to read next, the library catalog, County Cat, is actually a great place to find something to read, as well as, of course, order physical materials to your nearest location. The catalog includes some high level information from novelists and Goodreads that can help you explore new materials. So, first, you'll want to go to the catalog. You can either go directly using the URL, countycat.mcfist.org, or you can go in through the MPL homepage. So, that's starting at mpl.org. And then along the top bar here, you'll see library catalog and search. So some general ways to browse are by new material and then by genre or by New York Times bestsellers. Those are great ways to just find materials by happenstance. But again, the snowballing method is so powerful, especially with the catalog. So again, we're going to do a search for Kindred, always about comparison. So you can choose what you like the best. And there it is. So of course, here we have the item availability. That's what most people are searching through our catalogs for, seeing what branch, what specific item is at. And then we have the details section with all that bibliographic information. What I find that most people don't notice when they're searching through our catalog is this additional title information, because you have to scroll a little bit to get to it. This is information pulled directly from the novelist database and into our catalog for you to use to help you find out what you want to read next. So again, you'll see that similar title section and the similar authors. This book is a standalone, it's not a series, but if it was a series, you would see the next books in the series listed out for you in this section as well. Scrolling down a little further, we have the story elements, which are essentially the appeal terms exactly from Goodreads. I think they're the exact same ones. A little bit further, we have our reader reviews, a direct link to Goodreads there, as well as the Lexile measure and the accelerated reader level. So if you're doing reader's advisory or just trying to help a kid you know find something to read, you can search by their Lexile measure or their accelerated reader level through our catalog instead. And then there's also some related content. So articles that include author read-alikes and book discussion guides. So note that the hyperlinks in this section, anything you see hyperlinks, so that's in blue here, you can click on and either it opens up a new search in the catalog or it just gives you new materials to think about. So if we click on social science fiction here and give it some time to load, it recommends all these fiction stories that are social science fiction, like Kindred is. And you can scroll through and look for something, the cover interests you, click on it. It opens up a new search in our catalog, and then you can see where this item is available. Read the description. Oh, it's available near me. The description sounds great. I want to get this book. And then you can request it and have it brought to you. So there's a lot more to searching in the catalog, but that's pretty much the gist of it. The additional title information section is really powerful. It's like a novelist light that's integrated with our catalog that I highly recommend if you want to do the simplest, quickest thing to, find out what to read next. That is a great place to start. Are there any questions or comments for using the catalog? Don't think I see any. Feel free to put those in the Q&A at any time. All right. Now, moving on to talking about ebooks. The library offers a variety of ways for cardholders to check out ebooks and audiobooks, magazines, music, the whole gambit, all for free, all directly to your preferred device with the power of your library card. It's awesome. Today, I'm going to specifically be talking about Hoopla. Hoopla is a library resource that lets you borrow and read ebooks, e-audiobooks, music, movies, TV shows using your computer, phone, tablet, or Roku. So unlike Overdrive, which is our other option for downloading ebooks and the like, all Hoopla items are available on demand with no waiting period. Currently, NPL cardholders can check out up to 4 titles per month with Hoopla. So you can get to Hoopla by just going to hoopladigital.com or searching in your App Store or Play Store for Hoopla. It's Hoopla. Or you can go in through the homepage, which is what we're going to do today. It's nice to just have a starting point for these things. So again, we're going to go to Research, All Library Databases, go to H for Hoopla, and scroll down a bit. There it is. And we'll click Access this database. So I'm already all logged into Hoopla right now. But if you aren't, and of course you have to have a library card, you're going to connect your library card number and your PIN to our library system, the Milwaukee County Federated Library System. And from there, you should be able to connect an email account and check out books instantly. If you have any problems with your card, you don't remember your PIN number, stuff like that, feel free to call our ready reference number and we'll be able to get you sorted so you can check out your ebooks and your audiobooks and all that good stuff. So once you get all logged in, this is what your homepage is going to look like, a little different than mine, of course. Um, for Hoopla, I generally recommend that new users browse by format first and then by collection. And the reason for that is that Hoopla does have a much more limited selection than Overdrive, our other resource. Um, and that's just, I think of it as the price we pay for it being on demand. So I wouldn't necessarily go into Hoopla with I want to check this out. this item out, I would go into Hoopla with more of a, I want to browse and see what's available because I'm taking a trip and I want something to read. So I'd say browse by format first. So I'm going to go look at ebooks here. And it'll just give you a list off the top of popular and featured ebooks. But if you go down to the genres and collections, you can kind of narrow your browsing a little bit more. So there are featured collections and more collections, and these are more like those recommended reading lists from novelists, those curated lists of things that all have something in common with them. Or you can still search by genre. We go to fiction. Remember, you all are into mystery, so we can take a look at amateur sleuth mysteries. So there's like 2,400 items that fit into that amateur sleuth category. So we could browse through here and see what they have for us. So once we click on an item, we can see some information, what Hoopla users have rated the item, a little description. And then we also at the bottom have, again, more similar, they say artists, but they're authors. Similar are authors. And the great thing about using Hoopla is that all of these authors are going to be on Hoopla. Whereas if you're looking to check something out on Hoopla, but you're doing this in Novelist, say, there's no guarantee that that author is going to be available on Hoopla. So it's great to do your Hoopla work in Hoopla, let's say. So we could check out maybe Ann B. Ross and see what items she has in Hoopla. Maybe read her description and say, oh, I really like her. I'm going to read this book. Now, if you have gone past your four borrows for the month, you're probably going to be bummed out, but you can always press this heart that you'll see on an items page to favorite an item. And that way it's saved on a list for you, kind of like your bookshelves and Goodreads that you can access later for when your borrows renew and check it out then. So you can go to My Hoopla and go to favorites and see that item is right there for us to check out later. So do we have any questions on Hoopla? Ah, I see we have a question from Daniel in the chat, and he's asking, how do I encourage Hoopla to add a particular ebook, movie, or audiobook to its library? Let's see. I haven't run into how you can actually encourage Hoopla to add it to its library. I don't know offhand, but I think it just has something to do with the publishing companies they have licensed to, you know, use their content in this way. Um, Libby or Overdrive, I'm sorry, Overdrive does have a way for you to recommend an item be purchased. Overdrive is through our state's digital library system. So we actually collectively own those items. Hoopla is a little bit different of a resource. So it's kind of they own the items and give us free access to them, if that makes sense. That's a good question though. Let's see. Maureen asked, how does Hoopla know when you're done with the four? So each time you go to an item and you press borrow, that's one tick off. And it just, starting wherever you start checking things out in the month, It starts on that day, and then it doesn't renew your 4 checkouts until 30 days later. So, as soon as you press borrow, your one of them is gone, and it just kind of keeps track of what you have borrowed throughout the month. And the items don't return themselves until 30 days or so later. Good question, Maureen. Yes, I can show the TV shows available on Hoopla. So I'll start at the homepage just so everything's copacetic. Gonna go browse, and we're gonna go down to television. Like I mentioned, you can get the Hoopla app on your Roku, so you can watch this on your TV. So if you're not necessarily a person who loves to answer or loves to watch TV on your phone or your tablet or your laptop, you can definitely watch it on TV. You just have to have a Roku. I think they might also have apps for other platforms, but I am not sure on which ones. So it's a lot of BBC. That's a lot of what you might find on Acorn TV. So let's see more. A lot of BBC. And a lot of PBS, which is nice because if you don't, subscribe to PBS and you don't have, a cable or television, network television subscription, you can certainly view it through Hoopla. In your handout, I am including a short tutorial I recorded about a year ago on how to more in depth get all signed up for Hoopla and um, you know browse through there. It's about a 5 or 6 minute long video that you'll have access to for utilizing Hoopla to its fullest extent. And hopefully, you'll be able to find something awesome to read or watch or listen to there. Any other questions on Hoopla while we have it up? All right, you just feel free to put it in the chat. We're going to jump back into our presentation here and just review briefly. So today we talked about Novelist, which is a traditional database with detailed appeal terms and read-alikes listed. We also talked about Goodreads that helps you keep your books organized on shelves, and there is that heavy social component. So if you're someone who loves to talk about books with your friends, Goodreads is going to kind of mimic that interaction a little bit more. We also talked about using the library catalog and its additional information section that you'll find on an item's record to lead you to similar items. And then we talked about Hoopla, which has on demand checkout of electronic content from the library up to 4 titles per month. Any final questions? Let's see. Yeah. So Kimberly asked about the resource guide. I'm going to send that out to you with a recording of today's presentation. I usually send them out on Thursday before this time. So Thursday during the day, you'll get that email with the links and the resource guide. Thank you for your question, Kimberly. What are the PC requirements for Hoopla TV? That's a good question, Arlene. Arlene wants to know what she might need to have on to run Hoopla on her PC. Let me see. On our laptop. Gotcha. Let me take a look. So this might sound like a little odd, but you need at least 4 gigabytes of RAM and a 2 gigahertz or faster processor. I think you were at the Your PC tour, or in the Your Laptop tour, Arlene. I know it's an interior piece of your laptop, so you don't necessarily have control over that. I'd say the best way to check that part out is to just open it and run it and see if your computer like is struggling, like getting really hot, and you hear those fans whirring. That might be, a sign. But if you bought your laptop in the last 5 or so years, I think you'd probably be fine. And then as far as operating or browser, I'm reading now that it runs in Google Chrome. So as long as you can run Google Chrome, you should be okay. Hope that helps answer your question. And I'll send out a link to this supported hardware devices page after as well, because that's a really good question. All right. So, as always, you can look forward to that email from me in the next 2 days. There's my email address if you want to ask me a question, something presents itself, and you're like, oh my, how do I, do this on Novelist? Feel free to reach out to me. Also, if you're looking for more cool things to do with the library, please visit mpl.org/stay connected for all these awesome offerings we are presenting to the world. Next week, we're going to have an awesome Tech Tuesdays all about creating online with Canva, which is a free graphic design software. So I hope some of you will join us for that. I'm going to stick around for just a few more minutes if you have any questions. But other than that, have a great rest of your week. Thanks for coming, everyone.